No, you read that title right. I don't think that James Gunn can fix Superman. I don't think that this Superman movie's going to have much of Superman in it, in fact. As we know, there's a ton of superheroes that are going to be making their feature debut in this, including Mr. Terrific that we'll see in the images below here. The other thing that I want to remind people of is that we're also getting introduced to Mon Pa Kent, Perry White, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and a slew of other characters that will be joining in the Superman Legacy story. The problem I have with this, truthfully, is that it's a clown car, right? I'm not the only one that noticed this, that everybody but Superman is in this movie. You know, I know he's in it, but my gosh, there's something like 8 superheroes he's got to contend with as well. This isn't a Superman movie. That's the problem. And this is what we see as the problem with a modern take on Superman is that the Man of Steel by himself isn't enough to bring people to the theater. Because for the past 30 years, Superman has been nothing more than Batman's like trouble cleanup rag. At the end of the Cold War, Superman kind of ran out of purpose as far as the public zeitgeist was concerned because his identity had been wrapped around it for so long. And here today, well, let's take a look at what Superman is to James Gunn. We'll get down into the pictures here because, as you remember, earlier this year, this image surfaced of Superman putting on his boots. This is David Corn is Wet. I say it's Corn is Wet. People say it's Cornez Wet. So either way, the corn is wet, in my opinion. But either way, here's David Corn is Wet, and he is putting on his boots while there is a Dragon Ball Z fight happening over the city of presumably Metropolis, though judging by that building in the background, it could very well be in Chicago with the Sears Tower. So I believe that's where the Sears Tower is. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I suck at GeoGuessr, so you just yeah, I could be dead wrong on that, and I could be in Japan for all I know. Anyway, I digress. You saw this earlier. Looked very depressed. Superman is like, I'm taking my boots. I'm putting my boots on. I'll be there. Yeah. Dragon Ball Z fight. Goku's got it under control. That kind of thing. Well, now we have new photos that have come out, and they're not quite flattering to what James Gunn is up to. As you can see, the Superman suit is, of course, much more brighter than what the Snyderverse really, like the Instagram filters that Snyder's obsessed with, right? I'm not the only one that noticed that, right? That Zack Snyder loves putting like 16 Instagram filters over all of his footage, particularly that Nashville toasted one that turns everything yellow. He just likes peeing all over his film for some reason. I don't know. But it looks like James Gunn is not going that route. As you can plainly see right here and now, the Superman suit is not as dramatically colored as what was depicted in the dark apartment with the Dragon Ball Z fight in the background. Out here in the sunlight, without any film treatment to it, without any color correction going on, off of a very zoomed in kind of photo taken, hopefully taken with a professional camera, but judging by the grain, probably someone's really fancy iPhone. So as you can see here, the color of the suit is much brighter. It is embracing the high collar that we saw in New 52, but not completing it all the way around here. I appreciate that. I don't like a Superman suit that looks militaristic. That's the last thing I want to see out of a Superman character, a Superman suit in particular, is like a military leaning. I always think that that's never a good idea. You want him to appear as like a Herculean champion, like a strong man, way back from where he was based on in the circus. You want him to appear as an average guy that has donned some type of skin-tight uniform because everything else has failed to stay on him, you know? The other thing that's bothering me about this is the MCU lines. You'll hear a bunch of people talk about this, but in particular, what irritates me is why does Superman have armor? Beyond all the dumb lines, why does Superman have armor? Why isn't this just a regular old cotton suit? Why isn't this a regular old spandex suit? Of all the people, right, that can get away with just going around in spandex, Superman's bulletproof, for goodness sake, right? Now, I just said, right, a suit that'll stay on him, right? So I'm not applying him flying around at hypersonic speeds and that getting shredded off of him because of the force of the wind. I'm applying comic book logic to this with the cotton suit. The thing is that it's ridiculous to suggest that Superman can fly outside of the Earth's atmosphere, breathe in space, you know, presumably fly through the sun, as we've seen in the comics. So, especially with this symbol, by the way, this is one of the symbols that we saw fly through the sun during the Infinite Crisis Superman saga there. Again, this is what we're dealing with, is they're trying to put armor on Superman, a guy that is impervious to most forms of harm, at least terrestrial as far as Earth is concerned. What we can muster as humans, it's not much of a challenge to him. So it's bizarre that whoever is in charge of this suit decided to make it armored, right? So let's say that Star Labs provided this to Superman. It seems bizarre that they would sit around and say, well, you know what, we got to put some armor in there. Superman needs some armor. I don't know what we could possibly protect him from with the armor we have available to us on Earth, given that he could fly through a side. But we probably ought to just put some armor on him, right? It's a little foolish going around in a cotton suit. We don't want a fellow just going around in a cotton suit. That'd be silly. That'd be silly. Kind of like having his underwear on the outside. That would be silly if he just had his underwear on the outside, now wouldn't it? You see, this is the problem, is that they take themselves too seriously and then immediately step back from that. And I think that's the problem that James Gunn is going to continue to run into with this project. Now, we have some more pictures of it. This is Superman on the scene of some type of neighborhood situation. At first, I thought they were literally going to open the movie with Superman saving a cat from a tree, and the military showing up to have a conversation with him about things, as they do now. But there it is. There's the underwear on the outside. Now, I want to say this. I make a joke about it, but I welcome this, truthfully. All right? This is one of the things I appreciate about the suit is the super trunks. I like super trunks. I think it's a really fun idea for Superman. It takes him back to his strongman days. It also evokes that kind of homemade costume feel. That he is like he's wearing, strongman trunks. He's wearing swim trunks, and he's flying through the air, that kind of thing. And he's got his underwear on the outside, that kind of thing. I like that. But then you've got this stupid Marvel Cinematic Universe lines running all over it to make it look like armor. And so what are we doing? Somebody deliberately sat down and said, we need to make armored underwear for him. You understand? It needs to be on the outside, too. That's how America does it. Our bright red underwear on the outside that can stop a Kryptonian laser blast? I don't know. Maybe Zod's staring too hard at Superman's super dick. I don't know. It's a James Gunn movie. Anything can happen. But I also want to drag your attention to this. The suit appears to not be fitting Mr. Cornuswet very well in this scene. As you can see, it's folded over under his right breast. Again, I assume he has a pec, but this would be the right breast section of the suit. When you talk about a diagram of the locations of the suit, this would be the right breast section. My camera's flipped, but this would be the right side of the suit, the right breast of the suit. It appears to be folded over. And again, this is the price of having a stiff muscle foam armor suit, as opposed to just having Mr. Cornuswet, work out a lot the way that Christopher Reeves did. Remember, Christopher Reeve transformed himself into Superman. He was already in pretty okay shape, but then he went for the Olympian look in order to give the full experience that had been conveyed in the comics and George Reeves' performance before him as well. And so this is the problem I have with this, is that you don't need David Cornuswet to be this big, huge muscle man. You really don't. Superman just needs to look powerful. He needs to look like he can pick up a bus, meaning he has to have like an accomplished bicep, if you will. And what I mean by accomplished is that when he flexes, you should see a rise in it, similar to, not necessarily as exaggerated as Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you should see when Superman is flexing his muscles that there is a distinct expansion there, but not something so horrendous that veins are popping out and things like that. It's a little too much. But again, if getting him into like a track and field kind of condition would work just fine too, and then putting him in the skin tight cotton spandex suit, however you want to do it, would work much better than this foam rubber suit where it's folding over itself when he's in certain positions. They're going to correct this with CGI, obviously. They'll go in and smooth that out and make sure it's nice and skin tight. There's no weird elbow creases all over the place. It's just bizarre. It's such a strange choice to then have to deal with later on in the production when you can just put a guy in a cotton suit. Put him in spandex. It's fine. They do it all the time in Japan. They put helmets on him. They're rainbow spandex-clad superheroes. Why is Superman better than this? Come on. They put his underwear on the outside, for goodness sake. But I do want to attract your attention to a fella in the background. Now, this has been a character that's not, to my knowledge, been in a cinematic level movie. I don't know where if Mr. Terrific has been in a cinema level production before. I'm not sure about that. I do believe that there is a couple of CW shows that had brief cameos from him, but I think that's it. But he is clearly here, and they got the costume mostly right. We'll see a little bit later where they screwed up, and they screwed up pretty hard. But the jacket especially works very well. He's got the fair play and basic font on the outside, on the sleeves rather, and then on the back it has the stylized terrific on the back. Of course, the big T over his face. I do like his hairstyle better than the shaved down look from the comics. I do like this stand up look a bit better, and I'm very glad that it's not the Zoomer Twizzler hair that they're doing on every character now. It's very annoying. And again, like I said, you can see the terrific on his back here, and it looks very nice. Again, James Gunn is trying to accomplish something with his vision here. I get it. Like, I don't want to hate this. I really don't. But I'll get into why this isn't going to work, why it's not going to accomplish what they want it to anyway. And then there's James Gunn, who's just like, I didn't expect it to work out like this, but here I am making a superhero movie. It's like that Paul Rudd meme, like, who would have thought? Look at us. Who would have thought, right? Not me. Not me, right? It's that meme all over again. But let's go take a look at what's going on with these costumes. Now, immediately, your attention is going to be drawn to David Corenswet in the Superman suit featuring the gold Superman S. Whoops, we lost it there. Where did it go? I love it when things zoom in and proper. I'm very sorry, guys. This is a live recording. There we go. There it is. So as you can see right here, you have the gold S. And again, I think that Superman Dean Cain was the last one to have a gold S on his cape. I believe that was 1997 suit, like the final suit of his series, of Dean Cain's series. I don't believe that the Adventures of Lois Lane, Lois and Clark and Lois, whatever the CW show is with Superman, I don't believe that one has a gold S on the back. I don't believe it has an S on the back at all. And Tom Welling's didn't. And of course, Zack Snyder's didn't either. So again, to my knowledge, this is the first cinema level gold S on the back of the cape. Now, this is okay. There's no problem with this. I don't have a problem with the S design being the Kingdom Come Superman's S design either. This is a nice kind of 90s blending of what is today's sort of aesthetic of superhero costumes and a blending of the 90s aesthetic of superhero costumes. They're trying. They really are. They're trying to accomplish something here, and I appreciate it, but they're bumbling in places. This right here is a problem I have. Again, this is that military collar thing, and I know they had to figure out how to like attach the suit and hide the zipper that goes all the way up the collar, but I don't. Again, like it's a high collar that like tapers down into like the regular like Hanes kind of elastic style collar. I don't know. I don't hate it, but I really wish that they had figured out how to do this a little bit better than just having a flap around his neck. I know they're going to go in and fix it in post. It's going to be smoothed out and look like a complete, system without any of it. But why couldn't they have just done that with the zipper? What is the point of this overlap? Maybe it's to provide rigidity to the collar, or his hair kept getting trapped in the zipper, maybe. That's a possibility. But the other thing is that you're going to see right here is the cape is very long. This Superman has a cape all the way down to the heel of his boot. All right, so I would expect this to be a cape that'll be like over his head a lot. Typically with the Superman that has a long cape, he's going to do a lot of that like hand over his head, fist sort of thing as he's lowering down to the ground thing where the cape's over his head because of the wind as he's coming down. So you're probably going to see a lot of that. A lot of Superman with the lowering down thing and the cape flowing behind him. Maybe we'll get some Spawn effect where you sort of see the cape as a transition device. That's not outside of the realm of what James Gunn likes to do by merging the comic-esque, cartoonish nature of superheroes with a more, I guess, Call of Duty execution. I mean, compared to what we've seen, it's pretty much that. It's the kookiness of cartoons and comics merged in with like the military and mission focused kind of work that Call of Duty missions and gameplay is kind of built around. What the biggest problem I see with this is Mr. Terrific's pants are way too tight. I don't know about you, but can he even breathe? Can he even breathe? Is his superpower tucking? Like, I don't know. Like, gosh, just let him have some pants, man. You don't need to put him in tights. Like, again, it's superheroes wear super tights, but my goodness, those pants are ridiculously tight on that man. But I do like his boots. Boots are very nice, very nicely done. I see that they had some type of toilet paper situation, or he's been stabbed in the foot of some sort here. Some battle damage done. He has a trail going on here. Undoubtedly, there'll be a toilet paper joke made about that. Because James Gunn, you know, that's the level of his humor. So you can expect some like innocent sort of jovial attitude with your Superman movie here, some boyish humor that'll be scattered throughout. But I do want to remind everybody that it is a Superman movie, and they are working on a Batman movie as well that's been pushed back. Now, it makes sense to me suddenly, now that I'm seeing what this suit looks like, why the Batman 2 has been pushed back. This user on Twitter had a very interesting observation. This is Richard Ocelot, if you're interested in following him, at Richard Ocelot. He says, I think David Corenswet's Superman and Robert Pattinson's Batman would have looked really good together. The contrast just looks natural. Now, I want you to take a look at this image. I like this. I do. I'm not a fan of David Corenswet, but I see with a slight color shift to make that red pop out a little bit more, which again could be how they do things in the movie, versus what's gone on over here with the heavy film grain and the heavy color controls done in post with the Pattinson suit. This is a nice contrast. Perhaps the Batman 2 is the Batman 2 world's finest. I think maybe there's a possibility that that's why this Matt Reeves movie got pushed back, is because this right here is the intention of the second one. That's why the Penguin television show came out, because that was where all part 2, the Batman 2, was supposed to go. It was supposed to be the Penguin movie where he exploited his relationship with Batman, born out of dealing with the Riddler, that allows him to gain all this power and things like that. Like, I saved Gotham, the Bat takes orders from me. That kind of stuff, as we saw in the preview. Now, take for instance that that's all been dumped out into a series, and instead they're going to pursue Batman being the lead titled character in a world's finest pairing. Because again, as I said in the opening of this video, Superman is no longer the flagship character of DC that he once was, and he never will be again. DC does not possess the mechanism capable of reversing 30 years of degradation paid to Superman. Most people do not recognize Superman as a symbol of America anymore, and in fact, a great deal of people find him boring because the character is continually communicated as simply a heavy hitter, brought in to clean up Batman's messes when he gets in over his head, or to punch some godlike character so hard he stops being mad or mean or whatever the problem of the week is. Superman is utterly meaningless these days. In fact, the name has become so interchangeable that people don't know who John Kent is versus Clark Kent is anymore, thanks to how confusing they've made both timelines. So I'm not sure this movie is meant to do much more than build up hype for a potential world's finest pairing between these two, where Batman is the lead character and Superman, as has been usual for the past 30 years, is his support. But we'll have to wait and see what comes out of Superman Legacy before we can get an idea of what possibly could be going on with the next Matt Reeves movie, which, again, could be the Batman 2 world's finest. Oh well, until the next video, good luck out there.